So I was just going about with my day, right? And then suddenly a gentleman walks into our office, asks to speak with the director of our company. The gentleman is opening up basically a stall where he's going to be selling food, at the at these markets. So there are markets everywhere, right? So he just needs advice from an environmental health point of view. But for whatever reason, he wants to speak with the director and no one else. So we let him in. I give him my ear and accommodate him. He asks all the questions that pertain, right, to opening this particular business. I offer him the advice free of charge. And then he says, "Thank you for everything. Can I just take you out for lunch?" Usually I don't agree, particularly when I'm busy. But for whatever reason, something compelled me to agree inside me. And so I just agreed. It's a 42-year-old Argentinian. He's white, but he's young looking, right? But he's 42 because he disclosed that to me. And then he says, "Where do you want to go?" I'm like, "Well, anyway. And then we just go somewhere, and then he picks the place. I tell him to recommend the best that place has to offer, and he willingly does that. And he's very engaging and open in the conversation. So I was skeptical at first, of course, but the way he was so open, it then led me to the point of curiosity. So I just asked him, "So are you open to just speaking about personal things?" And then he's like, "Yeah, whatever you want to talk about, let's talk." So first I asked, "Why did you actually offer me this lunch?" And he says it just seemed like the right thing to do for whatever reason from his perspective also. So I'm like, "Really?" Then he's like, "Yeah, for real." Then I'm like, "Okay, cool. Then I'm glad you actually asked me out for lunch." And then he orders, the food arrives while we're speaking and engaging. And he lets me ask him any question I want. So being me and my train of thought, I always, you know, I'm sort of fixated about if I'm going to know about an individual who offers up, advice as a 42-year-old, he's 13 years older than me. Then I'm like, fine. First question, what is the most important thing for you in life? You've lived now 42 years. You want to venture into this food business. But what is the most important thing in your life? And then he says, "Well, Lesego, I'm 42 years old. I don't have a wife. I've divorced twice, right? So I'm single right now. I don't have a wife. I don't have any children. But what is the most important thing for me is to actually have a family. I look at time and it's running out. I feel like it's running out, you know, and how I analyze my life and evaluate my life, I can see that I wasted a lot of time on things that weren't actually important to the bigger picture of what is important to me, which is family. So in divorcing, that triggered obviously a thought in my mind because you all know I'm married, right, ladies? You all know I'm taken, right? So I ask and I share with him that when we went for premarital counseling, they told us, the Pastor Dolo told us that there are two things that are the biggest cause of divorce or separation in marriage. And he said that one is finances, right? So either you don't share common goals, you don't share common habits and practices around money, but you are also not open and transparent about expenditure, about your weaknesses, about money, about the type of marriage that you actually get into contractually. There's community of property, there's anti-nuptial contracts with accrual, without accrual, and so on. But one of the biggest things is finances. And the second reason he says is intimacy. So one person wants it, the other one doesn't. You lose connections in the process, and you suddenly, in the beginning, you used to hug and kiss each other, good morning. Now it's just good morning. That type of intimacy trickles down over time to to a lack of intimacy in the long run, and therefore you start feeling not connected to the person, you start feeling not intimate to the person. So I share with him the context of my question, and he openly shares and says, well, in both instances they cheated on me, right? In both instances they had a lot of money, so they had inherited money. So money was never a factor or an issue, and we're married in ANC, anti-nuptial contract, and there was nothing to it, and I wasn't bothered about the money. Mine was the feelings that I had for them. But in both instances, I take a little bit of blame because of the role that I put into that relationship, into that relationship not working out well. For them to actually cheat on me, there's a lack that I had that would fulfill them, In that sense is that, well, for one, in as much as I didn't cheat on them, I started becoming attracted, to other women, Like, oh, really? Then he's like, yeah. And so that made me then not focus much at home, though I wasn't doing anything physically, but mentally and emotionally, I felt less and less in love, and I felt less and less attracted to them. And I guess they would pick that up. There'd be limited conversations and things like that. And so when they cheated, I just divorced them. And that was that, right? Then I was like, okay, interesting. Then, as I said already now, he looks very young. His persona, his energy and everything. Then I'm like, okay. Now, from a physical standpoint, what's your secret? I mean, you said you're 42, but you look like you're in your early 30s, bruh. And over and above that, you have all this energy. I can hear it when you speak. I can hear it as you're engaging me. How do you do that? And then he openly shares again to say, well, I take care of myself, and I've taken care of myself for a very long time. I have a juicer at home, and I would juice your carrots, your gingers, your cucumbers, I would create my own juices 100%, and every morning I'd have that. I go to the gym. Like when I was a bit younger, I would go 5 times a week. Now I go at least 3 times a week. And when I'm there, it's resistance training, it's, your cardio training, it's swimming and so on. And I enjoy that, I'm like, okay, wow. Okay, so from a physical health point of view, this guy is really taking care of himself, and I can see the results, And then I'm like, okay, fine. Let's delve into your social opinions. Like, well, growing up from early on, the issue was that I like partying, I like engaging, I had lots of friends and so on. Then I was like, okay, what is your perception about friends now that you are older? Then he's like, if you're gonna have a friend, have someone who's genuine, have someone who's open, have someone who can be your confidant, have someone whom you just share, your deepest thoughts with, and have someone whom, if they message you today, they message you tomorrow, and you haven't responded for whatever reason, and then they don't decide to just stop messaging you, particularly when they don't know your reasons for not responding back to them, So he's like, a genuine friend is the one that even on the 7th day is willing to still, say hi, I hope you are well, give me a call, I miss you, my friend, or whatever the case is. And when you do call them, the issue is genuinely about you as an individual and the friendship and the fact that they missed you, and not, subject to you first having to answer questions. Why didn't you respond back to me? Why did I do something? Are we no longer friends or whatever? A genuine friend is one who understands your life enough to know that, well, at heart, alaqabana, there's nothing wrong. You guys are still seeing things, from the same perspective. So for him, friendship spoke to having genuine connections, And I also picked his brain about a whole lot of things, including spirituality, But I also picked his brain about finances, because finances are key. We are young and we need to understand finances, which is why some of my videos focus largely on financial success and wealth building. So I was like, okay, so tell me now about money, because he shared in our conversation that he's traveled the world, you know. He shared some of the countries where he's been, and it felt amazing to me because on my vision board, as I've shared previously, is that I'm into traveling and I want to start traveling, and I even given myself a chance to see the world. So now he was sharing it, and I was seeing his experiences and exposures through his eyes, through his lived experiences and memories. And that was great. That was great. So from a financial point of view, he went back to the basics, the things that we now take for granted because we are in a hurry to get the luxuries of life. He went back to the basics. He said, number one, don't spend money that you don't have. Everything that I have, I bought cash, and it's because I bought it with my own money. So I worked, got that money, then bought whatever it is that I have. So the car that I have, I bought cash. The house that I'm living in, cash. Whatever I'm wearing, cash. Food, cash. And we like focusing largely on credit. But he said that it takes time. You just need to be patient, but have a bigger vision around it. Now, doesn't that actually go back to the basics, guys? I believe that this gentleman was a godsend. He just came out of nowhere. He chose to speak to me. He inquired. He liked, I guess, my persona, my character, and my approach in what he was seeking. And I helped him. And there was a reciprocation or reciprocity. There was a return in just my act, which goes back to the principle of when you give, you receive a whole lot more. So it just reminded me to remain grounded, and to remain at peace with myself and my journey, to review my journey, to evaluate my life, and to actually focus on what is important for me. Out of the picture, guys, let's not take things for granted. I mean, out of the picture, out of, the blue, someone just comes and reminds you of the fundamentals of life. So that's why I'm sharing that with you. It's my experience that I experienced today. I'm full from the lunch that he paid for taking me out for lunch. So thank you very much, Alex. So yeah, guys, it's something that I had to share, and I hope it just brings a perspective, because this is, an engagement that I really enjoyed. It's an engagement that I really enjoyed, and it's quite important for me to share such engagements with you guys. But peace out. Have a great day. And remember, in everything that we do, always revert back to basics.